Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. It is December 17th. It is podcast number 27. Podcast number 27 on the 17th in 2017. A lot of sevens in there.
A lot of sevens. Get your lotto tickets.
Yeah, it was a big week in the NHL. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about, so thank you guys for tuning into this. But first, before we get into any hockey-related thing, there's something over there on that table, and this is a bit of a new setup because I dragged that table over there for you.
I've graduated folks to my own table.
Yeah, you have.
I'm a big boy now.
Yeah. So we have some maple syrup over there, and it's over there because someone asked me the question recently. Are you are Canadians is a typical Canadian? Do they actually have Canadian maple syrup in their household? Like, would a typical Canadian have maple syrup in their house, or is that just like a myth and just a typical Canadian thing? And instead of responding, I thought I'd just show you. We've got 3 different kinds of maple syrup in our house, and if you want to take them through what they are and show them.
Sure. This is the real deal maple syrup. This comes out of a real tree.
Yeah.
And it's sold in a jug like this in a lot of different stores. So it's probably something that's not too unfamiliar to the average Canadian viewer and even some American viewers. I've seen maple syrup at the Walmart in Epping, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So it's not just Canadians, obviously, but in New England, northern New England in particular, New Hampshire, Vermont, maybe upstate New York, definitely Quebec in Canada, and to a lesser extent New Brunswick, maple is a big industry. There are a lot of maple harvesting operations that use automated pipes from the trees that go to a boiler and all that, and it's a big part of the spring, usually around March. Warm days and cool, crisp nights are best for trees to pump out their maple sap, and maple syrup's a big deal. It's a necessity. I think it's one of the 5 official food groups, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Canadian has to like maple syrup, but we got all kinds of different ones there.
We have your standard Aunt Jemima pretend maple syrup.
Yeah, typical.
So they can't call it maple syrup because the maple people get upset, so it's called syrup. But we all know.
It's the same reason that the almond people can't call it almond milk anymore because the milk people got upset. Now they just have to call it dairy-inspired almond drink or something.
And, there was another crazy thing back in the day, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, in Quebec in particular. If you made margarine, you couldn't make it yellow because the butter people got ticked off that you didn't want to pass off margarine as pretend butter,
Yeah.
Anyway, people get all antsy about that. Yeah. We also have a glass bottle from the Steve's Maples Company. That's over in New Brunswick. Now, this particular bottle is using artificial sweeteners, but they're using real maple taste in it. So.
Yeah, it says maple taste, and I will say that packaging looks like the more authentic packaging for maple syrup. However, it's a bit of a sham because it's not true maple syrup.
Now, when I was a kid, we would buy maple syrup in the store, harvested in Quebec, and it would be in a can.
In a can?
It would be
like
in
a tin can?
Well, like a tin can, but like a large can, like you'd get like Varathane or something in. It was a rectangular can that was maybe 10 inches high, and it was blue and white on the outside with pictures of trees, and it had a screw on top.
Okay.
And that's where the real maple syrup comes from. I was a kid growing up in Montreal. We would go out into the townships or into the Laurentians for sugaring off parties in the spring.
Sugaring off parties?
Sugaring off parties, where you would go to a maple production facility, and they would have, and they're a big deal. You go there now, you can buy a whole day-long package where you get a meal, you get multi-courses, and you get all kinds of maple products for dessert. You get maple appetizers before you even eat.
Wow.
Because it's not just maple syrup. There's maple candy. There's maple bars that are like a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And the pièce de résistance for me was when they took the hot maple sap or syrup just coming out of the boiler.
Yeah.
You'd go outside, and they would pour it on the snow in a long string on the snow, and it would instantly turn to gooey. Like it would not freeze, but it would harden.
Right.
And then you take a popsicle stick and you put it down on the maple syrup and you roll it up, and you end up with basically a maple flavored popsicle.
Okay.
And then eat that. There's nothing like it on the planet. It's amazing.
Interesting.
It's amazing.
This is not where this conversation would go, I thought.
No.
But it's interesting. I'm glad you told me that story. That's a story I'd never heard before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's set the maple syrup aside, and actually, let's not. By the way, not a sponsor for any of that maple syrup, and not a sponsor for these chips. but these Stacy pita chips, fire roasted jalapeno, these are amazing. If you like spicy anything, you need to get these. They're at the level where they're not too spicy, but they're just at the right excuse me, they're just at the right level of spice where you can eat the entire bag in one sitting and not need to die.
You just have to clear your throat.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, let's get into the hockey because there's a lot to talk about. And I don't want this podcast to be turning into let's talk about Ottawa every week. But seriously,
Since we're here.
Every single week there's something out of Ottawa to talk about. And Ottawa fans probably don't like that because it's entirely been negative conversations. Because first there was the losing streak, and then there was the Carlson quote, and then there was the Melnyk quote, and then there was the Canada 100, and then there's what Melnyk said at the Canada 100, and there's all kinds of stuff to talk about Ottawa.
Yeah.
But we would not be doing our job. Not that this is a job, but we would not be. We would not be doing our job if we didn't talk about it, because everyone else is talking about it and stuff. But we need to do our part and have the conversation as well and give our opinions. So that's what we're going to do. So. Just recently, Melnyk spoke to the media about, and he was asking hard questions, and he said that the possibility of relocation is not off the table. If things go bad as far as the arena and stuff, the new arena, then relocation could be an option for him. He said he'll never sell the team. He said, I'm never going to sell the team, but I'm not going to rule out moving the team. And Ottawa fans lost their minds, and I don't necessarily blame them. Justin and I made a video on Post to Post called Eugene Melnyk, Friend or Foe, and this was back in early March, I think. And so, like, the issues with him saying things he shouldn't necessarily say has been going on for years. So I'm not shocked that he said that, but it's really frustrating. And Ottawa Senators fans actually got hashtag Melnyk out trending on Twitter in Canada.
Yeah.
So...
And it's not about the truthfulness or untruthfulness of what he's saying. It's not that he's saying anything that's factually incorrect.
Yeah.
It's that he's saying things he should not say.
Well, I think any team has the possibility of relocating outside of the original six.
And we all know that,
maybe.
So you don't need to say it.
Yeah, and yeah, we all know that. It's not something you need to say.
Yeah.
And him saying it, just, number one, it makes him look terrible.
Yeah.
It makes him look irresponsible. And it makes him look almost cocky, like he is the be-all, end-all. And we're going to talk about that a little later, too, because he did well, actually, you know what? We're going to talk about right now. He did an interview with Tim and Sid, I think it was the day before, so it was like Friday on the Tim and Sid show, obviously. And he had the attitude that he was the sole reason why the Canada 100 or the NHL 100 game what happened in the city of Ottawa. He said, I was able to bring this game here. And when he said that, I'm like, hey, does he really think that he is the sole reason behind why this game is happening in Ottawa?
I think anyone who knows the real deal knows that he was everybody's second choice. Montreal was the first choice to host this game and to have all these events because the league was born in Montreal. And Montreal just does not have an appropriate outdoor venue.
Well, that was my understanding when they were originally discussing the idea. Because they admitted they wanted to have the game in Montreal first.
Yeah.
And obviously Ottawa is just as good as my location. And
climate-wise.
And it turned out fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's for him to say that, there's just a level of cockiness with him. And he's just an arrogant person in general. And it's really frustrating. And he just and he was complaining too about how people, people just don't. We have all this facility. We have, one of the best rinks and arenas in the league. And stuff, and people just don't want to come. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, we make it to the third round of the playoffs, and we can't sell all our seats.
Yeah,
there's something clearly wrong. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is something clearly wrong.
In fact, you looked at him this morning when you shaved that face.
Eugene Melnyk has zero accountability. Zero. He never takes responsibility for anything. And he actually complained about the media too, and this was in a different conversation with someone else. He said, I'm constantly bombarded by inappropriate questions and hard questions. Like, well, that's your job. Like, if you want to make yourself available to the media, you need to expect these kind of questions. Some owners don't even talk to the media, and that's fine. That's maybe the way it should be. I don't really know, but you can't expect to go into these interviews and just get softball questions and just just throw home run answers that are so easy. It's just it's not going to happen. So it's just he's really entitled. I feel like.
Yeah. If anything, you need some media training. You don't always have to answer the question that they ask you. In fact, most trained people learn how to not do that.
Totally.
And he doesn't have an off button or a filter. And he's obviously clearly frustrated. He's put a pretty good product out there for the last several years while not blowing the bank on doing it. He's managed to drag a lot of fans from Ottawa out to Canada, not to fill his rink necessarily, but that's really only been a problem the last couple of years. And he doesn't need to be as frank and earnest and honest as he has been. And there's a thing called diplomacy. And if you don't have an off button and you say the first thing that pops into your head and you have a Twitter account, then you're like the guy in Washington.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do well for diplomacy either.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of Marc Bergevin, but he knows what diplomacy is, and he has that off button, and you won't get anything out of him.
You won't get anything out of him.
Same with Babcock too.
Yeah, and even Dorion, who actually is is Bergevin's colleague in Ottawa, his compatriot, and then you go back to Montreal, and Melnyk's colleague or his peer would be Jeff Molson.
Yeah.
And Jeff Molson has all kinds of grace and all kinds of knowledge of when to be appropriate.
And he spends a lot of time with the media.
A lot,
maybe more than anyone else in the league. I mean, Montreal's a hotbed for hockey.
It's the hottest hockey market on the planet, and it's a team that's not doing well. And if anyone's getting tough questions, it's Jeff Molson.
And Jeff Molson even spends the time to answer questions fans via the internal Montreal Canadiens PR. Like if you go to the Canadiens website, there'll be videos on him where he sits in his office and he just answers questions from people, and then they upload it on YouTube. And I think that's pretty cool. But he knows, like you said, he knows how to answer the questions, and some owners don't. Like Eugene Melnyk does not. Obviously, we just discussed, and the owners in Buffalo. Forgive me, their names escape me. I think it's a husband and wife or whatever. But
and where?
Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo. Yeah.
Their owners are way too involved, in my opinion.
And in Montreal, Jeff Molson desperately wanted this fanfare. He wanted the outdoor game, if he could have got it. He wanted all that goes with it. And nobody puts on an event like Montreal to honor the sport, the league, honor the other teams when necessary, and honor the fans. Ottawa did a pretty good job of that last night. As we're taping this on a Sunday, the outdoor game was held last night, and they had several days of run up to it, and they did a pretty good job. But Jeff Molson wanted it and didn't get it because he just couldn't have it. And logistically, it was not possible. So they, as a consolation prize, a couple of days ago, they dedicated a room in a building in Montreal as a National Historic Site because it was in that room in 1917 that the league was actually created.
I think that was more than a couple of days ago. That was like weeks ago. I think they had their meetings.
Yeah, maybe it was a month ago. No. And they had meetings there, and they had a presentation and a plaque, and Jeff Molson smiled and said all the right things, even though I'm sure it was killing him that this was what he was getting for his city and his team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Melnyk in Ottawa was getting everything else.
There was a few issues with the game last night, the outdoor game, and we'll get into that a little later. But overall, I thought Ottawa did a really great job, and the venue was amazing. The secondary venue in front of the Parliament building was amazing, and it was outside of the camera work and stuff, and we'll talk about that too. It was a really great event, so it was special.
Before Melnyk's comments on Friday night, the ones that started or not started, but fueled even further the major controversy, I was already doing research for this morning's show on the Calgary ownership situation and some of the stunts that were pulled and some of the debate that's raging in Calgary, only to have this Ottawa thing sail right over my head. And now the research I've done for Calgary's discussion is really paling in comparison to what Melnyk has.
And we're still going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. But he's really set the cat amongst the pigeons there. And I saw so many tweets from Ottawa fans, even after last night's game, happy the Sens won 3-0, great. Yeah. Melnyk out. Like, they don't care. One win isn't going to satisfy the Ottawa fans. They want him gone.
Yeah.
And they're just so fed up with his attitude.
And it's frustrating because there's nothing they can do. I don't think that Can an owner really be voted out of the team that he owns, like legally?
Well, if you go back to the reason the NHL was created, we had that owner in Toronto that they couldn't get rid of him in the old NHA.
Right.
So the entire league basically voted themselves out of existence, so he had no league to play in. Then they recreated the NHL and wouldn't let him in. But the whole league had to do it that way.
Because I know when an owner wants to come in with a new team, like Buddy did he wanted to bring a team to Hamilton, Ontario, I think.
Yeah, Jim Balsillie wanted to.
Yeah, and all the current owners voted, it's like, no.
No.
That it sucks that the current owners can't do that to a current owner and be like, no, you're out.
You know, what could maybe happen, though, is they could go to Bettman and say, look, give him $650 million or whatever and buy the damn team off him, and then we'll find an appropriate owner for it. And if Melnyk didn't go for that deal, he's not only bad judgment, he's not intelligent.
Yeah, no, he's not.
I think he is an intelligent man. He just has no sense of when to talk and when to shut up.
So hypothetically, just to segue this a little bit, if Ottawa did move in, we'll say 10 years, because I think that arena is good for another 10 years. I think I heard them say that. If Quebec still doesn't have a team by then, I think Quebec would be the absolute. I mean, it wouldn't be. It couldn't get any more perfect as far as a relocation team. It would be in the same time zone. It would be in the same division, same conference, same everything.
Everything would be perfect. And I think we're looking at less than 10 years for that decision to be made, one way or the other. There's talk about going into the area in downtown Ottawa.
Right.
It's just it's called the Breton Flats, and it's an area that's extremely close to the Canadian War Museum. It's only a couple of blocks away from the major hotel district downtown. It's a perfect place for it. And right now, they're in the final stages of trying to make that property available. And if they started putting shovels in and cleaning it up, they could be in there in 2021. So it's not 10. It might be only 4 or 5 years before that becomes available, and whoever is stuck with that monster out in Canada is stuck. And too bad, because it's too far away and it never was a good idea.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like this is a situation that the Ottawa Senators fans lose automatically, and there's not really anything they can do about it, and that really sucks. But so there's terrible news for Quebec because of Houston and Seattle and stuff getting teams, and then maybe a little bit of a glimmer of hope with the Ottawa situation. But I still don't think Ottawa's going anywhere. Honestly, I don't think Ottawa's going to get relocated.
Well, you said, you've heard me say this maybe in the last year or so, a few times. I never thought Ottawa was a great fit for an NHL team.
Yeah, and I've always disagreed with that, actually.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's your show. But I still don't see how it's a long-term sustainable thing.
Okay.
And I guess we'll find out. But if the team does not come into downtown in a reasonable time period at a reasonable venue, and I think that Le Breton Flats location is just perfect. Like, for instance, all of the people that live, hundreds of thousands of people live over in Gatineau.
Yep.
And right now, for them to get to Canada, it's a drag. They have to go through downtown Ottawa to get up to the 417 and then head west.
The highway there. Yeah.
Now, if this was down on the Le Breton Flats, there's 2 major bridges from Gatineau that are right at the rink in 90 seconds.
And there's other things that go into play here as to why there's attendance issues, like the whole Phoenix pay system within the government, because there's...
Yeah, some people have blamed that, and I'm sure there's a bit of that, but I don't think it's...
You don't think it's...
No, I don't.
No?
I don't. Because the Phoenix pay issue with the government is... It's getting a lot of people's pay wrong, but the horror stories about people not getting paid at all is not as significant or as widespread as it would appear. But
really?
Well, because eventually it gets fixed.
Eventually.
Yeah, I didn't get paid for 3 months.
Yeah.
I was able to survive with some creative accounting. But,
creative accounting, yeah.
But, now my situation's fixed, and there's people that I'm working with right now in the federal government who are not fixed, but they're not being paid. They're just not being paid right. So, but there are issues in Ottawa. The economy is not great. The federal government is growing again under the new administration a little bit, because these administrations tend to grow. But I don't think it's that.
Just to touch on Carlson real quick before we move on, there's been talk about him maybe not walking away at the end of his contract in Ottawa, and then that moved up to, is Ottawa going to get traded in the offseason at the draft or whatever? And then now it's moved up to, is Carlson going to get traded like soon, like
Mhm.
before the trade deadline. You think that's a possibility?
I don't.
I don't either.
Mm.
But if they listen to the right deal, like if they could get so much for Carlson, like an unbelievable amount for Carlson. Like this is like the Lindros thing back in the day almost.
Mhm.
And someone else said that online, but it's like I'm thinking about all of the prospects and potential you could get from Carlson. And with all those prospects and stuff, if he's going to get paid $13 million or something like that in Ottawa, or $14 million, and then you look at the $14 million for one player, and then you look at all the things that you can get for Carlson for way less than $14 million, like over the next 6 or 7 years, I think you have to listen to the deal. I think you have to listen to every proposal, and I would trade Carlson for the right offer. And Ottawa Senators fans probably don't want to hear that, but
yeah, I would in a heartbeat. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
But if it is going to happen, sooner the better for Ottawa's purposes, because despite how well he played last night and how much he was into the game, and how much he was connecting with the fans and everything last night, which was amazing, and I loved watching him last night. He was having a ball. As much as all that's going on, he's not the Erik Karlsson of last year or the year before.
He's still going through some healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think his value will not get better than it is now. I'm not saying it's going to get a lot worse anymore, but I don't think it'll get any better.
I agree. There was a point last night where he it was at the very, very beginning of the game, and there was a soundbite of him coming off the ice and saying, "Wow, my foot hurts." And this was before, like, he blocked a ton of shots last night, and this was before any of those blocked shots hit his foot or anything. So obviously he's still has some lingering pain there in his foot somewhere. So that's unfortunate. But he was an absolute legend last night, and he blocked like 8 shots. He got an assist, I think. He played like
32 or 33 minutes.
An unbelievable amount of time on the ice. And
yeah, he set a record for defenseman's anyone's ice time in an outdoor game except a goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Doughty had the previous record.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable. Like obviously one of the best, if not the best player in the NHL. You could really make that argument for Carlson. So, okay, let's transition away from Ottawa because we just spent 20 minutes on Ottawa.
Oh boy.
Milestones. I want to hit this up early because 5 weeks ago we were so close with Marleau and so close with Cam Ward.
Yeah.
For the Milestones, Cam Ward almost got 300 wins. Marleau almost got 1,100 points. We're 5 weeks after that. And I'm very happy to say that both Marleau and Cam Ward finally got their milestones.
And wasn't it on the same night? I think it might have been on the same night.
Could have been. So Marleau now has 1,100 points, which is awesome. And Cam Ward actually has 301 wins. He won twice this week. So that's awesome. And Kerry Lettinen also had a pretty big milestone this week. He got his 300th win. So just behind Cam Ward there. So that's pretty cool to see. Moving on to streaks. And in the wins category, we have Tampa Bay on a 7-game winning streak. Not too much of a surprise there.
Actually, it's 8 now, I think.
Nope.
No?
7. I checked
It is 7.
an hour ago.
It is. Okay.
Philadelphia, 6-game winning streak. And this is why I said this a couple weeks ago. Teams can do this, and this is why Ottawa isn't out of the game. Like Ottawa could do what Philadelphia is doing right now. Philadelphia lost 10 games. And now they're on a 6-game winning streak. Like, that's unbelievable. It's amazing and remarkable, and I hope they continue. It's cool to see teams rebound like that. Chicago, 4-game winning streak. Nashville, 3-game winning streak. Washington, 3-game winning streak. And Carolina, 3-game winning streak. Chicago is very quietly playing well recently. Not a lot of people are talking about them. I don't think Crawford's getting enough attention that he deserves. And just in general in his entire career, I think he's a bit underrated. I mean, he's got all these Stanley Cups, and everyone knows he's good, but I don't think he gets enough credit as he deserves. Washington as well, quietly sneaking up the standings in the Metropolitan. I don't know if anyone's really paying attention to Washington right now, but they're really getting going here, which is makes me happy for my prediction. And then Carolina, 3 wins in a row. That's pretty great to see. Obviously, with some help from Cam Ward there, the 2 wins this week. On the losses side, we have Arizona with 5 losses in a row.
6 now. I'm quite sure of this one.
5 official losses. They probably got a point in the.
Oh yeah, they might have got it.
Yeah. I mean.
And last night's loss. We'll get to the scores, but last night's loss was heartbreaking because they were so close.
I just don't understand. Like, what's the point of having it? Like, as an owner in Arizona, what's the point of having the team if you're not going to make it competitive? They've got $27 million in cap space.
Mm-hmm.
They're like at 58 million total, and I think the floor is 52 or whatever. Like, they're not even close to the cap, ceiling. I just don't like. What's the point of having a team that uncompetitive? And Carolina's in the same situation. They've got $25 million, but because of great management, they're in a position where they are actually competitive and still have $25 million free in salary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Carolina is on the brink of a wild card spot right now.
There are times when a team just performs poorly for a generation, but the fans still come. And Toronto was like that in the 70s and 80s. So Toronto had no incentive to make a better product because they still sold out every home game. I don't think that's happening in Glendale.
If I was an Arizona fan living in that area, why would I go to a game when the team does and not because the players aren't good. Obviously, every NHL player is good, and you wouldn't be there otherwise. But I would be so frustrated with the owner that I wouldn't want to support the team financially that way. Because if he's not willing to support the fans financially and make his team competitive, then why would we support him financially? I don't understand it. What's the point of having the team in the league if the owner's not willing to make it competitive? It drives me crazy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And they are...
I feel terrible for Arizona fans.
If you're looking for the first round draft pick, best chance in the lottery, that's the only...
And maybe that's okay for a couple years.
Yeah.
Like if the owner said, okay, guys, let's just take 3 years. Let's really kind of save our money and kind of take a step back, grow the team, get some draft picks and stuff, rebuild, and that's fine. Arizona has done this for the past 15 years or something. Seriously, it's when enough is enough.
Yeah.
As Buddy on Dragon's Den says, stop the madness. I forget, Kevin someone. Toronto 3-game losing streak, really missing Matthews, and concussions are scary.
Yeah.
And it's even more heartbreaking because his own player hit him in the head. So O'Reilly hit him in the head accidentally. So, oof.
Collisions with your own teammates always seem to be twice as bad.
You're not expecting, and you're not looking subconsciously. If you're wearing a white jersey, you're only looking for dark jerseys in your peripheral vision and stuff. And you never expect to get hit by your own player.
No, that's too bad.
Winnipeg 2-game losing streak. Not much of a concern there, because Steve Mason was in net last night. So, just saying. Calgary 2-game losing streak. When most of your offensive production is coming from Johnny Gaudreau, I think he leads percentage-wise from offensive production by one player compared to the rest of the team. I think Johnny Gaudreau is at 33% or something. It's the highest in the league or near the highest. Excuse me. I think that there's a little bit of reason for concern there. I think he needs a little bit better supporting cast. But Calgary still is playing pretty decent hockey, even though they've just lost 2 games. Next, I want to hit up the trade rumors, and apparently Mrazek and Robin Lehner and Evander Kane are all on the trading block. So that's interesting to hear Lehner's name out there, because he was supposed to be the answer. He was the backup for a while in Buffalo, and now he's supposed to be the answer in Buffalo. And there's no answers in Buffalo right now. They're really struggling.
No.
And again, I don't understand it. They're trying. They're actively trying to be competitive. On paper, they should be competitive. They should be around where maybe Philadelphia or Carolina is. And they're just not. Every year, year after year, they're just not competitive. And I don't understand it. I don't know if it's the coaching staff, but they've changed that. I don't know if it's
something in the water.
I really don't. I think it's a curse. I can't explain it. And then people are talking about an Ian Cole for Evander Kane swap. And I read that. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And without even checking the cap, I'm like, there's no way that Pittsburgh is going to have enough room to make room for Ian Cole. Or make room for Evander Kane. Because Ian Cole's making, I think, $2 million. Evander Kane's making 5.25 or something like that. And the Pittsburgh Penguins have, I think, 1.9 or $2 million free. So Buffalo's going to have to retain some salary from Evander Kane. They're probably not going to do that. Maybe. I don't know. But I just don't see that trade working out. I think Pittsburgh would have to give up more than Ian Cole to make that trade. So I don't see any I don't have the right word. There's no mustard in that deal.
That's as good as anything.
Let's talk about the Canada 100 game next. And we spoke about it briefly, I guess, earlier, but I'm going to say certain things, and then you tell me how you feel about them. Is that okay?
Sure.
How do you feel about the camera work last night during the game?
Absolutely terrible.
What didn't you like about it?
Everything.
Everything.
There, next question. To be more specific, though, I thought that they had lots of cameras, and I thought they spent too much time proving it to us that they had lots of cameras.
Yeah, they're showing off quite a bit of toys.
Mm-hmm. They had the moving camera on the wire that you often will see now in football games, which was interesting. Occasionally, it's a toy.
It had potential, but the technology or the engineering is just not there yet, because we saw this, and it was very uneasy. It was frustrating. And it didn't have the right perspective for the power play and stuff. It was just, I just didn't like it during the game.
Yeah, for a lot of the time they'd show the power play from the other end of the ice or from the other end of the ice. Like they didn't show it from the side where you're used to seeing things, right? And the switching of cameras was just absolutely awful, as usual. It was the same bozos in the same truck that just did the game last Saturday night that we whined about.
Switching the cameras 2 seconds too early or 2 seconds too late, constantly.
And you knew it was going to be bad when they announced ahead of time that just as the national anthem is concluding, we're going to get a fly past from a CF-18 fighter jet.
I have that written down here, too.
From Bagotville, Quebec. And Neil and I are both like on the edge of the couch, like, oh, okay, here we go, here it comes. And of course, they switch to the camera, as you can hear the plane approaching, as the national anthem is winding down. You hear the plane approaching. And you think, okay, here it comes. And they go to the camera that's mounted up high over the stadium, which is good, but it's underneath an overhang.
Yeah, it's in like an apartment complex on a deck or something.
So as the plane goes overhead, the camera tries to follow it, and just as the plane ticks on his afterburners and makes a nice little light show as he tries to power away, the plane disappears behind the damned overhang.
Yeah, you see like maybe half a second of the plane, or a second.
Maybe. And like, of all the cameras they had available, every single camera in there, they go to the one that does not have a view of the plane when it goes overhead.
Yeah.
These people are absolute idiots.
CBC, TSN, Sportsnet, if you need a quality control person, you need a camera angle quality control person, I can be that guy for you. If you're looking for someone, I'm available. And I would be good at the job. I promise you I would be good at the job. If it's not me, someone has to do it.
You know what they could do for quality control? This is just dawning on me, and it's very cheap. They could hire you, which I think would be a great idea.
Thank you.
Or they could get a cat.
Oh.
A cat in a cage.
Okay.
Mount the cat in the cage in the hockey arena and agree to take whatever shot that cat is looking at.
Whoa.
The cat's going to be looking at the coolest thing going on. The cat's going to follow the puck.
That's true.
Anytime there's something neat going on, the cat's going to be watching it, because that's what cats do. They watch things, right?
They get distracted, and it's like a laser.
So put a sensor on the cat's nose or something. Whatever the cat's nose is pointing to, pick that camera.
I completely
with that same
agree.
shot. So get a cat.
Have a cat in each corner, and then I love it. There you go. Okay. The music performance, how do you feel about that?
Terrible.
Bon Jovi and someone else, I don't know.
It wasn't Bon Jovi.
I don't know. Brian Adams.
It was Brian
Same
Adams.
thing.
Yeah. But just before we leave the camera thing, just one other thing that just drove me crazy. During the ceremonial face-off, during the award of the best moment ever to Mario Lemieux, during almost every other sentimental, important moment, just as the players were about to shake hands or do something sportsmanlike, the frigging camera would go into some fat guy in the crowd with a spaceman suit on.
And you're allowed to say that because you're fat too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really frustrating, because especially during the Lemieux Lafleur handshake, where Lemieux got the painting or the illustration of himself. Everyone was waiting for the handshake and for them to connect. Yeah. And immediately,
just as they start reaching for each other, the fat guy in the crowd.
Yeah.
Way too much crowd.
Yeah, way too much crowd. And during a whistle, during when there's not something going on the ice, like when there's a replay and you want to see, don't show it then. Don't show the crowd then. We want to see the replay. when there's a ceremony on the ice, show the ceremony. We don't want to see the people.
Mhm.
I want to see the people pre-game, intermissions and stuff. I want to see people in their costumes and their jerseys and whatever. Speaking of jerseys, five jerseys I counted from in the entire game last night of the new jerseys, like the jerseys that were in the game last night between Ottawa and Montreal. 5 people bought those jerseys and wore them. That tells you how like financially, like no one's going to spend, like not many people are spending a bunch of money on those jerseys because number one, they look terrible in my opinion, both of them. I know you don't agree, and they're too expensive. All 5 were Canadian jerseys, by the way. I didn't see one person in the crowd wearing one of the new Ottawa Senators jerseys, and they promoted them like a month and a half ago. Like, oh, get your jerseys and stuff, and it's a money grab.
Well, it's the NHL.
It is the NHL.
Yeah.
And I understand it. It's
the
just
National Money Grab League. I thought the Canadians' jerseys looked really good. I like the extremely bright white of that. I thought they stood out really well.
I like that part. I just didn't like that they were see-through.
Hmm.
You could see like the fight strap, the tie strap at the back of the jersey, and a few other things.
You don't want to see their thongs?
No, I don't want to see any butt cracks or
Yeah.
anything like that.
The Ottawa jerseys, they were okay, but they were underwhelming. And that O in the front, especially when it's elongated, all I'm going to say is it reminds me of a body part, and that's all I'm saying.
I didn't look hard enough at that to notice anything. No pun intended there. I didn't like the silver, like it was almost like a shiny silver. That's really the only part I didn't like. The rest of it was fine for me. It was just that silver part, but.
The music, back to the music.
Right, yeah.
They had a band that did some stuff prior to the game, and I think a little bit else, and then they had Bryan Adams on after the second intermission. And like I know they do that at the Super Bowl at halftime, and they have outdoor stuff at other sporting events, music. I just hate all that. I just want the damn game. I'm a real sports fan. I don't care about the rest of that crap.
Yeah,
I really don't.
It's for the people there. And that stuff should be there for the people there because it's an event.
Yeah, but we're not there.
Yeah, I'm not there. I don't want to see people play music. If I want to see, I'll go see or if I want to hear Bryan Adams play a song, I'll go to YouTube and listen to Bryan Adams there. Like, I want to watch hockey.
Mm-hmm.
When they were doing the players walking onto the ice at the beginning of the game, so the players coming on. Carey Price Montreal came on first or whatever. And he could see him start to look around, and you could see some of the other players start to look around and appreciate their surroundings and take it in. And that's what you want to see. Nope.
No.
Cut to friggin' Buddy on the base doing whatever he's doing for a good 11 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
And when you come back to the players, they're all now standing still, facing each other.
You missed everything.
You just missed it all. You missed the best part. And even the fans who wanted to hear that music that were there weren't watching the musicians at that moment. They were watching all the players coming out for the first real time. After the warm-up, here they are for good.
And that goes back to camera work. I mean, obviously, but it's fine to have live music. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
So,
and just the CBC's work, and the CBC here as well as Sportsnet, they're all in the same building now. It's just abysmal. It's just awful. And we're Canada. We should be doing this better than anyone else on the planet, and we're the worst.
And the music was too loud.
Yeah.
For me, I thought it was too loud. Like. They were trying to do interviews, and they couldn't even have conversations. The music was so loud, so it was frustrating.
And the music that the Ottawa PA system was playing was too loud.
But that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
And just in general.
Yeah, before the start of the second and before the start of the third, they were just playing some rock stuff. It was just noise music.
Yeah.
Didn't have a beat to get the fans going. It was just noise.
Yeah.
It was just frigging awful. That's what it was.
What did you think about the pregame?
The pregame...
The little ceremony that they did where they had the 4 guys come out in the old uniforms, and then they switched it to black and white and stuff. And
I thought it was really hokey at the time, but it grew on me a little bit. They had choreographed all of those plays ahead of time. You could tell because they were passing it to each other, and that doesn't just happen by accident. I think the reason, and I just came to this realization this morning, I think the reason they were doing that is so they could put it in a highlight package for the whole game. Because the highlight package started with that, and it looked appropriate there. So,
I loved the idea. I thought it was fantastic. I love that they changed the camera to black and white, and they had the pre-plays and stuff because they were telling the story of what happened in the first game. It was a total celebration. I loved it. It just felt a little long-winded. I thought, okay, we'll do a few plays, and then whatever, the story's ended. And it's like 6 or 7 plays are going on. It's like, okay, game's over. Like, just get her done here. But I thought it was pretty special. The only other thing I want to talk to you about in that game was when Lemieux joined the play-by-play after he got his illustration or whatever. What did you think about him joining the play-by-play while the game was going on for conversation?
I don't think that's the place for that. I think Mario Lemieux, being the superstar that he was and still is in many ways, deserves to have airtime at some point where we can all see it and enjoy it.
Yep.
But I think to have the play going on, it takes away from what he's saying.
I think so too.
Because viewers who are interested in the game are not really paying attention now to what he's saying.
And that's no knock on Lemieux. Lemieux is
no
arguably the best player to ever live outside of Gretzky, or maybe, I mean, who knows if he's still played. That's a total argument for another time. But it's no knock on him.
No.
It's the fact that we want to see the game. I'd sit down and watch an hour and a half interview with Lemieux after the game or in an intermission or whatever. It's just, I want to see the game, and like,
yeah, to do that during the game, you're denying the viewers the play-by-play call that they're expecting to have because they're going on for 5 minutes about Mario Lemieux, which is, again, like I totally agree with you. It's a wonderful topic for the appropriate time, and that wasn't the appropriate time.
And I think he knew that because he kind of wanted to get away. He was bundled up like everyone else, but they kind of made it. They kind of put the excuse on him that maybe, okay, you're cold, you can leave, whatever. I think he knew that what was going on, and I think he didn't really want to hinder the play-by-play, so he wanted to leave a little earlier than they were expecting. But just speculation there. Okay, just away from the hockey, like crazy hockey news, just more personal stuff here. So and I'm going to try and get through this pretty quick because we're already at 42 minutes.
Oh my God.
The contest that we recently had is closed now. As of Friday, there's almost 400 submissions, actually, which blew my mind. There was 344 accepted entries. So I've accepted 344, and 44 of them were disqualifications. And like, there were some good drawings, or some good submissions. And I said, okay, that looks a little suspicious. So I searched for elements of certain logos, and I found elements. Like, I don't mind, like, when you're creating a logo, like if you were doing this for real, for a work, and you're creating a logo, and if you say you're a graphic designer, then that means that you're gonna create this logo 100% original, because it has to be 100% original because of copyright. If you say you're a graphic designer and you take copyrighted artwork and you submit it as an official logo and claim it's yours, that's like, don't do that. Don't, like, I can take elements and make thumbnails and stuff because I'm not making something that's going to be sold or copyrighted or anything. I'm mashing up artwork for whatever. I'm not making anything official.
Yeah.
If I was going to create a logo, it would have to be 100% original. So, and I got so many people, I guess 44 people, submit logos who thought that I was stupid enough to let it fly. And even some of the ones in the 344, I knew that they took some of it, but I knew that they weren't going to win, so I just kind of let it slide. No offense to those people. But 344 submissions, ton of logos to go through.
That's a lot of work.
And it wasn't just the logos. And there were some amazing logos. I'm going to show them all. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to show them all in a future video. Some of the stories that people included with their logo submissions were really special. Like, hey, here's my backstory. This is why I love this team. I didn't want to redesign their logo, but here's the logo that I redesigned. Like, so I got to read a ton of awesome stories from people. And unfortunately, I just don't have time to respond to all of them, but I just want you guys to know that I read every email, and I have some emails that I need to respond to, but I just haven't had time. So if you've sent me an email or a private message on Twitter or anything, I've seen it. I need to find time to respond to it, and I apologize for the delay. So,
cool.
But I'm excited to go through the entries with you. You haven't seen any of them.
No.
I've shared some with Jason last night. And he was impressed by some of them, so I'm excited to show you. More post to post. Our second channel, we filmed 4 videos for that yesterday with a special guest, my friend Chris, aka Mark Mathot, and we did 2 videos on NASCAR, 1 basketball, and 1 soccer / football, European football. We looked at the Premier League stadiums, and that's going to be a pretty exciting video, I think, for lots of European football fans out there. And we also filmed 2 videos for Post to Post, and we looked at Hockey East Arenas, which will be coming this week. and we have some post-to-post merchandise coming out, and we filmed a little video on that, so pretty excited to release that.
Mm-hmm.
Some news here for you, and not for everyone and you. We had a bit of a milestone. The Post-to-Post podcast passed 60,000 views, combination of downloads, audio downloads, and views on YouTube.
No
60,000. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
That's
really
milestone.
something.
Completely unhockey related. I'm going to go see Star Wars Tuesday night. I bought my tickets. I'm going to go see a D-Box with the seats that move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Aubrey and a few others. And I already were spoiled. Someone in the comment section on the channel spoiled the ending of the movie. I deleted the comment so you can't see it now. And don't even bother trying to comment and spoil it for others, because as soon as I see it, I'm just going to delete it. So don't even bother. And it's just unfortunate that people do that, but I'm still going to go see it. So I haven't watched it. I haven't watched any trailers for this Star Wars movie on purpose, because I want to go into it 100% blind. Like, I don't want any teasers or nothing. So I'm pretty excited. I think that I'm going to spring this on you. I think that we should rank the former NHL logos. How do you feel about that as a video idea? So the Colorado Rockies, the Kansas City Scouts,
I think
Hartford Whalers.
I think it'd be great.
I think that people would be interested in that. So I think I want to try and film that this week.
Are you going back just to 68, or are you going to go back farther? Like back to the
original Ottawa
the New York
Senators?
Americans and the...
I'm going to go back to the first, when the NHL first started.
Okay, great. Sure, that'd be great. Yeah.
And I that's kind of during your time, not back in the not back in the 30s, but I mean, like, a lot of these logos, like the Kansas City Scouts and stuff, is during your time. I mean, kind of, sort of.
Jeez. Nice save there.
This one is hockey related and local related, and again, the complaints continue with CBC. And this one's another complaint from me. There's been rumors that, not rumors, but Charlottetown is in the process of trying to get together a venue or a new arena facility to replace the Eastlink Center, which is the biggest arena in Charlottetown, where the Charlottetown Islanders play in the QMJHL. CBC released an article yesterday about a meeting that the city council had or whatever, and they
released a plan.
Yeah, the city proposed 2 facilities, but CBC reported, and quote, well, almost quote, the city of Charlottetown has put together a plan to build or create 2 NHL-sized arenas. And I saw that and I lost my mind, because I clicked on the article right away and I knew that it was clickbait. And sure enough, in the article it says 2 NHL regulation-sized ice surfaces within these arenas. But in the title on Facebook, they said 2 NHL-sized arenas. Arenas is not ice surface. Arena is the arena, the entire thing, the seats, the ice surface, the roof, the walls, everything. When you say NHL-sized arena in Charlottetown, two NHL-sized arenas in Charlottetown, that's clickbait. I'm not okay with that, and it's not okay.
I don't know if I agree it was clickbait.
I think it's total clickbait.
I think it's stupid.
Well, yeah.
I just think it's a headline written by someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
That's exactly. It's a headline written by someone who doesn't follow hockey and doesn't understand.
Yeah.
No, it's a stupid mistake because they don't know, not because they're actually stupid. It's CBC's fault for not having the right person to report on that article.
Yeah, but I think that's different than clickbait. Clickbait is where you intentionally mislead the clicker.
It was unintentional clickbait that was intentional by someone who reviewed the article, who probably knew better and didn't ask them to fix it because they knew that what it would look like.
Okay.
And the last thing on my list, I just want to give a shout out to Steve-O, and he's a longtime viewer of the channel. He submitted a video, an introduction video. He was at a Anaheim Ducks game, and he know how I'm Steve-O, I'm at whatever. And I accidentally filed it in the wrong folder in the post-to-post email, and I just found it last night. I actually filed it as a contest entry, so I didn't get to view it till last night, and he submitted it like November 20th or 27th.
Steve. Sorry, Steve-O.
I emailed him back. I apologized, and he said, "Don't worry about it. I'm on a road trip following the Ducks." And he's from California, but he's on a road trip following the Ducks, and he's in Washington. He filmed another intro video in Washington, sent it to me, and he's going to he's going to New Jersey and New York next.
Oh my!
So he's following the team, which is awesome. So Steve O, I apologize for forgetting or digitally misplacing your intro, but that's coming in a future video, and your second intro is coming in a future video as well. So I apologize. Appreciate your long time viewership, and we'll get it sorted soon.
Thanks, Steve O.
That's all I got.
Great. Well, just to help with the time pressure, I'm not going to dwell a lot on the scores from last night, but we'll just go through some of the highlights, I think. Edmonton beat Minnesota 3-2, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Milan Lucic, and Puljujarvi got goals for Edmonton. Minnesota got 2 from Dumba to make the game close.
That was a great game, by the way.
It was a great game, and I think the greatest part of the game is near the end when Minnesota had the goalie pulled and they had 6 attackers. Niederreiter did a wraparound towards the empty net with less than a minute left that McDavid saved with the blade of his stick, and it was an incredible save. Like, there was no goalie in the net, but McDavid was back there or no goalie in position.
It was such a fast-paced game. It was almost like a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost like a mini rivalry started between the two teams just based on what happened in that game. So it was a great game.
Yeah, something else. New York beat Boston 3-2 in overtime. Grabner and J.T. Miller got the goals for New York. Boston got one from Heinen and Marchand. And then, but interestingly, Boston actually got a third goal there. They scored first in the game in a goal that was called back. It was called back because it was offside on the play going in. So Boston got, it was the right call to call it back, to say it was no goal.
Unfortunately, I did miss that game. I heard there was a comeback, though.
And then Boston got caught in overtime with too many men on the ice. They had 4 instead of 3.
Ooh.
So they got a penalty, and that put the Rangers up 4-3, men on the ice. And Zuccarello scored the power play goal and won the game.
That's heartbreaking.
Yep. Sure is. Carolina beat Columbus 2-1.
Heck yeah.
And Bobrovsky was outstanding.
As usual.
He was amazing. Like, that should have been like a 10-4 game, because Darling played pretty darn good too.
I'm becoming a closet Carolina Hurricanes fan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like, they're not really a successful team, or they're not really doing that great, but there's just something about the team that I really love. They're just getting equal contributions from everyone. Like, Teuvo Teravainen is leading the team in points.
Mm-hmm.
Teuvo Teravainen is a good player, but he shouldn't be leading any team in points. and Justin Williams is second in points. He's 33 or something like that.
Yeah.
I love Sebastian Aho. I love Scott Darling. I love the core of that team. I can't wait to see it grow. I am definitely becoming a closet Carolina Hurricanes fan, and that's why I wore this hat today.
Oh, there you go. The first goal was credited to Stahl, but he didn't actually shoot the puck. It was an own goal. Jack Johnson scored in his own net, kind of
That's
underneath.
happened a few times this year.
Jeez. Noah Hannafin got the other goal for Carolina, and Wenberg scored for Columbus. Philadelphia beat Dallas 2-1 in overtime. Gostisbehere got both goals, including the overtime goal.
Wow.
Yeah, and Brian Elliott got the win. Bishop took the loss there. The Ottawa-Montreal game, I don't know if we ever told what the score was, but it was 3-0 for Ottawa. There was a play late in the game where Jonathan Drouin gave the puck away to Bobby Ryan, who then scored the second goal, and that pretty well iced it. And then, of course, they got an empty netter after that. Pajot got the first goal for Ottawa.
Do you have the face-off total written down there?
I don't have the totals, but it was 70-something% for Ottawa.
It was astronomical. Mm-hmm. It was like 45 face-off wins for Ottawa versus 11 for Montreal. It was unbelievable. Jonathan Drouin could not win face-off to save his life.
The 3 big players that needed to do something was Drouin, Pacioretty, and Galchenyuk, and they were the 3, I would argue, the worst players on the ice that night.
Pacioretty hasn't done anything all year.
No, and Pacioretty had the puck on his stick and an empty net in front of him to tie it 1-1, and whiffed it. Didn't even make contact with the puck. That was the closest Montreal came to scoring anything during that entire game, and that could have been a 1-1 tie and changed the whole complexion of the game.
Totally.
After the game, Pacioretty admitted he needed to have that, and he didn't. We have no quote from Drouin and no quote from Galchenyuk because they weren't made available to the media.
I'm ready for Galchenyuk to be traded. He's constant no look passes, the giveaways. Pacioretty, I'm done with too. I was done with Pacioretty last year.
I think I would keep Pacioretty. I'd just take the C off him. I'd keep him. Because I think if the pressure of being captain wasn't on him, I think if he was just freed up to do his thing and maybe freed up to be where he wants to be in the ice, I think he'd be a much better player.
I agree with that. I would keep Drouin. Because I like Drouin, even though he
had a bad game. Yeah, he had a bad game, but I like him. He's probably my favorite player as far as talent goes on the team right now. Yeah. The Islanders beat the Kings 4-3, another overtime goal. Greiss was unbelievable in that game. He was fantastic.
And Josh Bailey, this week, has played amazing. Like, seriously.
Mm-hmm. Got another goal. And Tavares got one. Eberle got one from Barzal in overtime.
I was about to ask, did Barzal get any points?
Yeah, he got an assist on that
Nice.
goal. Yeah, so it was good. St. Louis beat Winnipeg 2-0, and Mason was amazing. Mason was amazing, but he lost.
I kind of poked fun at him earlier.
Yeah.
He did play well.
He had a really good game.
Yeah, he did play well.
Really good game. Carter Hutton, St. Louis' second goalie, was the winner there, and that's his 9th career shutout and his 5th, I think, for being with St. Louis.
He is very underrated for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
very,
in
very
Jake
underrated.
Allen's shadow.
Yeah.
Tarasenko got his 15th. Dunn got a goal as well for the 2-0 win. Washington beat Anaheim 3-2 in overtime once again. A lot of these damn 3-point games that I hate. And the overtime winner was scored by, guess who?
I'm going to assume it. Oh, actually, I know. I know who it was, Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah.
I didn't
Man.
see it, but
It's crazy. But yeah, 3-2 for Washington. Kuznetsov scored. Backstrom scored. Getzlaf got the goal, or one goal, for Anaheim. And it was a tip. Silverberg actually, Getzlaf hit the shot. Silverberg tipped it in, so Silverberg got credit for the goal, and Derek Grant got the other one. So another win for Braden Holtby. Pittsburgh and Arizona. This is the heartbreaker I mentioned earlier. It ended up being 4-2 Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh was ahead 2-0, and Arizona came back with goals by Cousins and Max Domi to tie it at 2-2. And with 14 seconds left in a 2-2 game, Ole Mata had a point shot that got by Randy Ranta.
dang.
And it got in. 14 seconds left. And then, 9 seconds later, Sidney Crosby got an empty netter. So it ended up being 4-2. But Arizona was that close to getting a point off the Stanley Cup champions.
That's the worst way to lose, too. You come back in a game with all that mustard and just lose it. Yeah,
Just
that sucks.
Heartbreaking. Colorado and Tampa. This was an interesting game. Tampa Bay beat Colorado 6-5. But Tampa was ahead in that game at 1.4-0.
You're kidding.
4-0. Yeah.
That's a game I missed. I regret not watching that game now.
Yeah. Kucherov, Strawman, Hedman, and Gourde all scored to make it 4-0. And then Landeskog scored for Colorado to make it 4-1. And then Tampa scored again, Strawman. So it was 5-1. And then Colorado went on a run. Landeskog scored, Tyson Berry scored, Nathan McKinnon's goal to make it 6. Or
I saw that. I saw the replay.
You saw that?
Yeah, beautiful.
from his own zone, behind his own net,
Yeah.
all the way coast to coast.
And that's the second time he's done that this year, I think.
Yeah. And there's only 5 defenders for Tampa. He deked 8 guys again and scored. It was the most beautiful thing I've seen.
Yeah.
For the last night's highlights was
It
amazing.
is great.
Yeah.
Landeskog got a hat trick, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Mm.
And also, the final goal to put it away for Tampa Bay was Sergachev.
Ugh.
8th goal of the year.
And we still owe them, we as in Montreal, still owe them a draft pick, too.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts badly, especially when you see Drouin's mistake last night.
Yeah.
And the final game, Nashville over Calgary, 2-0. Johnson and Fiala scored for Nashville. And that's the third shutout in a row for Nashville, I think. And third shutout in the 4th game or something. Anyway, Nashville's lights out.
Yep.
And Rene got the win there. And Smith took the loss, but he played well.
Do you know that Pekka Rinne has better numbers than Carey Price in his career? He's played 3 more games than Carey Price. He's got more wins. He's got a better save percentage. He's got a better goals against average. He is every single stat is better than Carey Price.
That's crazy.
And Carey Price is considered the best goalie in the league. That just goes to show you how much I think the Canadian media has an effect on certain players. And Pekka Rinne, if you just base it off numbers, is the better goalie than Carey Price. Do I agree with that? No, but
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting stat. We talked a while ago about Philadelphia's winning streak, Tampa's winning streak.
Yep.
There's a few other streaks on the go. I normally don't follow the OHL, but the Sioux Greyhounds beat the Guelph Storm yesterday for their 20th consecutive game.
What?
20 games, and it's not even a record in the OHL.
I think the Syracuse Crunch is on a 10-game winning streak or 11-game winning streak in the AHL. I think.
Yeah, so the record is 25 straight games, Kitchener Rangers back in 83-84. But so they're only 5 games away, and they're playing lights out. In the soccer, English Premier League, Manchester City's now won 16 straight, and I think that might be a streak of some kind. They beat Tottenham 4-1. Back to the NHL, just a quick look at the standings. And this is interesting to show you how dismal it is. If you're a fan of Montreal or Ottawa or Buffalo, you've got a lot to worry about. Because in the Atlantic, Tampa Bay has 50 points and they're plus 18 in my system. And they're on a 7-game win streak. Toronto is next at 41 points and a plus 7. Tampa Bay's not getting caught.
No.
Not getting caught.
No.
Boston is next. They still got a point yesterday, so they're 35 points and a plus 5. Then you look at the rest of the Atlantic Division. Montreal, 32 minus 1. Detroit, 32 minus 1. Ottawa, 29 minus 2. Florida, 29 minus 3. Buffalo, 23 minus 10. So there's 5 teams in the Atlantic that have fewer points than they have games played.
Yeah.
In the Metropolitan Division, there are none.
That doesn't surprise me.
None. Washington, 43 points and a plus 9. New Jersey's 41 points and a plus 9 because they have games in hand.
Yeah.
Columbus, 41 points and a plus 8. And then you got the Rangers, Islanders, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Carolina that are all in the pluses.
Remarkable.
It is.
Remarkable.
Central Division, almost all the teams are in the pluses. Nashville, 46 points. St. Louis, Winnipeg. And you talked about how well Chicago was doing, quietly working their way up the
just
standings.
recently, yeah.
Right now, with my plus-minus system, they would be tied for a wild card spot.
But in fact, they're outside of it.
In fact, they're outside because Dallas is ahead with 38 points and Chicago has 37 points, but Chicago has a couple of games in hand.
Exactly, yeah.
Pacific Division, the Kings are out in front. The Vegas Golden Knights are only 2 points behind, and they actually have a better plus-minus. The Kings are at plus 10 with 44 points, but Vegas holds 2 games in hand, and they got 42 points. So there you go.
Crazy.
Then it's the Sharks, Ducks, Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Arizona. Who do you think's leading in points right now?
I would assume Stamkos.
It's not. It's Kucherov.
Oh, same thing.
3 points more now. It's 46 to 43 over Stamkos.
They become the same person.
Yeah. In goals?
Vetchin?
Nope. Well, yes, he's tied. Sorry. He's tied.
Kucherov.
Yeah, 23. Plus minus.
No idea.
Strawman, 24. Shen and Schwartz are tied at plus 23.
20,
Yeah. Goals against average. Goalies.
Arundel.
1.75. He's now played 12 games. Next is Vasilevsky and Crawford. And their save percentage is that same 3 ranking in that same order. Wins.
Probably Vasilevsky.
Correct, 21 now. Holtby's next with 19. And shutouts.
Oh, goodness. Bobrovsky?
Yes, 4. Well done.
Thank you.
Full marks.
I didn't cheat either.
Yeah.
I promise.
Interesting thing happening on Tuesday afternoon. The 19th of December, Tuesday afternoon, coming up this coming week.
The night that I'm going to see Star Wars.
The night that you're going to see Star Wars. This is going to happen in the afternoon before you even have to go to Star Wars.
All right, hit me. It better be good. You're hyping this up.
It's going to be hockey.
There's a hockey game Tuesday afternoon?
There's a hockey game Tuesday afternoon.
What, really?
Toronto and Carolina in Toronto.
Why?
It's because the 19th is the actual 100th anniversary of the creation of the NHL. The Toronto Maple Leafs are playing a home game wearing the Toronto Arenas jerseys.
Oh, right. I heard about this.
And it's a kids' day. They're saying that rather than play it at night, which is a school night, why not just cancel school altogether in the afternoon or play hooky? So they're setting up the game for 2 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock our time on Tuesday, so they can fill the rink with as many kids as possible and have this celebration.
I would not want to be there. No offense to anyone with kids or kids in general, but I would not want to be in that arena. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's great for them. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool for them to do that as a city and as a team. It's special.
It is special. And it's it's for Canada. Like Vegas has had the odd Friday afternoon game during the week just to try it. Because it works in baseball. It's been working in baseball for over 100 years.
I would love it if the NHL had more afternoon games during the week.
Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, sorry. I have a question.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, if the city of Toronto got a second NHL team, do you think they'd be called the Arenas as to pay homage to the original Arenas team? I don't think they would, because the name is confusing to someone who's not familiar with the history behind the name. Yeah. Because you play hockey in an arena, why are they called the Arenas?
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing.
Because back then, probably most of the games were outdoors, you know. And hey, guess what? We're going to advertise the fact that we actually have an arena. So
Maybe.
we're going to call our team the Arenas. That'd be like, you know, the New York stadiums.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, probably not. But now the St. Patrick's, you know, because the arenas became the St. Pat's and the St.
That's
Pat's
true.
became the Maple Leafs, maybe the St. Pat's, but even then,
And those St. Patrick's jerseys are nice.
yeah, they are very nice, actually, yeah. Alrighty. Just very quickly touching on the Calgary situation.
Yes, I was hoping for this.
Because we mentioned it with Ottawa and referred to it, that
Yeah.
I did doing some research with Calgary. Eric Francis, writing in the Calgary Sun on the 12th, which was last week, he basically said that he expected the Calgary Flames to be in Houston within the next 3 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is a very bold statement.
It is, and what he was accused of later, I guess, by Kent Wilson in The Athletic, is essentially carrying water for the Calgary Flames ownership, who are trying to put as much pressure as possible on the city of Calgary to come across with not only an arena, but all kinds of things. I didn't realize this, but when the negotiations were going on and they were talking, Calgary didn't just want the arena. They wanted the parking lots. They wanted, you know, the gate from other things that would happen there. They wanted all kinds of extra stuff, more than just hockey revenue. So anyway, that was his column. But the guy from The Athletic, Kent Wilson, basically called BS on that and took his Calgary Sun column apart paragraph by paragraph, you know, with italics and then regular print, italics and regular print, and he just bored a hole in them.
Whoa.
And it was really, really good. And he concluded at the end that everything they were saying from the Calgary ownership was just a tactic to leverage the city of Calgary, just like Mario Lemieux leveraged Pittsburgh back in 2008.
I remember that, yeah.
And he used a quote from Lemieux as part of his article, just to prove his point. And Lemieux said this: "We had to do a few things to put pressure on the city and the state, but our goal was to remain here in Pittsburgh all the way. These trips to Kansas City and Vegas and other cities was just to go and have a nice dinner and come back."
I think Edmonton did that as well a couple of years ago.
Sure.
They went to Seattle, I think, just for a good steak.
Yeah.
At Philip Minion.
Last Thursday night, the Vegas Golden Knights won a game, and they became the team to attain 20 wins in the fewest number of games for any expansion team in the history of the NHL.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic news. I think, by the end of the year, I don't know how they wouldn't be considered the best expansion team in the NHL of all time. Mm-hmm. Like maybe there was some back in the day, but any recent expansion team,
yeah,
I think they would blow the record out of the water.
Yeah. Did you see or hear about Johnny Gaudreau's shootout goal that was disputed by Bruce Gaudreau?
I did, and people wanted me to make a video about it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Did you actually see the goal?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I think it was, at first I thought this can't be good, but when they explained that the puck continued in forward movement, even if he didn't, even if he switched to start skating backwards, the puck continued to gradually and slowly move towards the red line when he finally waited out the goalie long enough to flip it over him. I guess it's a good goal.
Even regardless of the rule, I thought it was a good goal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it deemed itself a video review by us. So
Yeah.
it's hard to make those videos too because we can't legally show the footage without the NHL getting all cranky pants at us.
Yeah, we don't want that. Now, my final item.
I hope it's the St. Louis thing.
It's a St. Louis thing.
The goalie thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know about this?
No, but you told me about it. You
Okay.
said I have a story for you. I'm not going to tell you now. I'm saving it for the podcast. It's about St. Louis and the goalie, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So
Whew.
I've been waiting for it.
So this happened back a week ago last Tuesday. It would be like December the 8th or whatever.
Yeah.
Or last Thursday, sorry. It happened prior to our last podcast, but it was not on my radar. So
Okay.
I picked up the story a couple of days ago. There's a young guy, and his name is Tyler Stewart, and he lives in St. Louis, and he's lived there all his life. He's 25 years old,
Okay.
and he works in the family business, which is a vending machine company. It's called Cardinal Vending,
Okay.
and his dad owns it, and his job is to fill vending machines, putting soda cans in the soda machine, or pop, as we'd say in Canada, and chocolate bars and whatever else. That's his day job. The family has always been a big hockey family. He went to his first St. Louis Blues games when he was 2. His parents took him, and by the time he was 3, he could recite the names of all the players. He was just all in about hockey. He became a goalie in high school, and he played high school hockey. And then when he went to university at St. Louis University, he was a goalie there. Now, the St. Louis University is not, tier 1 Hockey
Right.
East,
Yeah.
they're down in the
trenches.
trenches of hockey in the Midwest. And because he was a local goalie talent, he occasionally would be called by the Blues to do some practice goaltending, in team practices or scrimmages or even the Black Aces kind of thing. So he's not signed. He's not, he's not part of the team or anything like that. And he plays in a gentleman's league.
Yeah.
That's his regular gig for hockey. So he keeps his hockey gear in the car all the time. And they have season tickets.
Oh.
He's had season tickets for years. He's only missed one game this year. So he was at the arena in St. Louis, section 313, seat number 3, and he's sitting there, and his phone rings. And I guess before the phone ring thing, I'll go back. Early on Thursday, Carter Hutton took a puck off his foot during a morning skate.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doubtful, and they were going to assess him later on. So now we're going to set it up. Okay, Jake Allen's going to be the starting goalie. He was going to be anyway. But Carter Hutton now is hurt.
Right.
He's sitting up there in his seat, and the phone rings.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you? Oh, I'm up in section 313, where I usually am. Do you have your gear with you? Yeah. Could you come down and get dressed and go out and do the warm-up? Because we don't have a backup goalie. We've called Ville Husso up from San Antonio, but his plane won't get here in time.
Ooh.
And his flight ended up being delayed even further.
Ooh.
So he gets the call. Can you take the warm-up? He calls his wife, who's a nurse and was asleep because she worked night shift.
Right.
You won't believe what's going on. So she screeches and grabs his mom. Somehow they pick, the two of them come and they occupy the seats.
Oh, cool.
The season seats. While he goes downstairs and gets dressed. And so this is the mother who brought him since he was 2 years old to these games. Anyway, he has a number 98 jersey they stuck on him. He goes out for the warm-up, and he's got his name on it, I think, by this time. They managed to put his name on it.
That was my next question. That's cool.
Yeah. So he's in the warm-up, and, of course, Jake Allen takes most of the shots. But for the last 3 or 4 minutes, he goes in and takes shots, and you can hear the cheering from up in the crowd where he sits. And he's going over to the center line where they get down on all fours and do their stretching exercises. And right beside him is Dallas's temporary backup, Mike McKenna, who's a buddy of his. Because Mike McKenna, he wasn't born in St. Louis, but he grew up in St. Louis.
Okay.
And these two guys are like, can you friggin' believe it? And they hang out in the summer like they're buds.
That's amazing.
And they're both warming up beside each other. So the game starts at 7 p.m. in St. Louis. Husso finally shows up on the bench at 7:41 p.m., which is near the end of the first period. So for almost the entire first period, Tyler Stewart, 25 years old, not even a pro, not even signed, is sitting on he's not actually on the bench because there's not room for the spare goalie, but he's there. And he's the backup goalie for the first part of that game.
So if anything happened to Jake Allen, he'd be going in.
And they asked him that. They're like, what do you think? He said, well, I'm not an NHL caliber goalie, and I don't want anything to happen to Jake Allen, but I was ready. I was good to go.
Can you imagine if a situation like that came to sight and he actually went in and he played like incredible at like just saved everything? What do you think would happen?
Well, the movie would happen.
The movie,
it would be a movie. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? They might sign him up. As it turned out, the club asked him to leave his jersey, leave it here, and bring your stuff when you come to games in the future because you never know. So just in case, we might have to call you again. And if you look at the box score for the game, he shows up as a scratch player. So he doesn't show up as actually being active on the roster. But it says T. Stewart scratched. And St. Louis won that game. Jake Allen got a shutout, 3-0 over Dallas. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was the most amazing story.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I was looking at the comments underneath, and some of the hockey fans who commented on that story, which was in The Athletic where I read it, but it was also in Sports Illustrated and St. Louis papers. What other sport would that ever happen? Where a fan might get a call from the team when the fan's at the game to watch it as a fan and end up being on the ice.
It never happened in football.
Never happened in football. I can't see it ever happening in baseball.
I can maybe see it happening in baseball, but I don't think hockey is probably one of the toughest things for that to happen in because who carries their equipment with them?
That's
It's
right.
not a sport. You can just it's not basketball. You throw in some sneakers and some shorts and you just go.
Yeah.
It's you have
You have to have your stuff with
45 pounds of equipment. If you're a goalie, you've got 100 pounds of equipment. So
Yeah, I just thought it was great. And there's some great quotes from him in the article. I'll leave it with you. I've actually printed it out from The Athletic, and I'll let you look at it. But, that's a Don Cherry story, too.
Show the picture.
Sorry, yeah. Here's Tyler Stewart here. He's got his, leaning up against the net, being all cool and whatever. But he was saying, like I get out there and, he basically said to himself, all you need to do out here is just not die. Because Tarasenko was going by at 100 miles an hour, and
I bet you the guys on the team had some fun with him too, and like, not fun as like joking, like make fun, but I mean like cheered him on and stuff, and was excited for him basically.
Well, he said he got to listen to the pregame speech with Mike Yeo because he was in the dressing room for that.
Yeah.
All the stuff they do. It's crazy how loose they are. You'd think they would be tight, but they were joking around like you wouldn't even think they were playing a hockey game. I sat next to Vladimir Tarasenko, and he and Sobotka were asking me how to spell scissors because they were confused on the spelling. They were calling it Caesar, like Caesar salad. And I was just like, no, it's scissors. They just talked to me like I was just one of the guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
Still in the locker room, Stewart had a brief chat with Blues starting goalie Jake Allen. I'm like, yeah, listen, I'm going to stay out of your way. You do what you need to do. You got big game, and I don't want to mess up your routine. Just tell me whenever to go in, And then it was time for the Blues to come out in the tunnel for the pregame warm-up. As the backup goalie, Stewart was one of the last players to step on the ice wearing number 98. And, excuse me, he said, honestly, it's just weird because I'm a season ticket holder and I've seen warm-ups 1,000 times. Yeah. It was just like, wow, I'm doing it, just like they would. But it's so much faster. You've got Jay Bouwmeester flying by me at 6'4" and Berglund flying around. I'm like, I'm not going to get killed. Just stay out of the way.
Yeah.
So he had a great time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
That's a good story to end the podcast on, I think, unless you have anything else.
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. Thanks for joining me for today's podcast. Thank you guys for watching at home or listening if you're in your car driving, as I think many, or at least some do for the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you look to your left, you'll see some trees. If you look to your right, you'll see some buildings. And if I was right there, that would be amazing.
Or if you're going down the Sawmill River Parkway, you're going to see trees on both sides.
Maybe. Depends on where you are.
Or if you're on the Bruckner, you're going to see cement on both sides.
The more you guess, the more we're going to be right. Thanks, guys, for listening and watching. We appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, hope you can hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Maybe hit the like button. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you guys sticking around and making it this far on the podcast. I know a few people skip through and stuff, but if you listen to the whole thing on a weekly basis, we absolutely love you. So thank you very much. If you've downloaded this and you're just listening to the audio version on iTunes or Google Play Music, thank you very much as well. And we will see you in next week's podcast, which is number 28 on December 24th.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
And Christmas Eve is the same day that the contest winner is going to be announced. And on the 25th, there's going to be the special Christmas mail time video, which will technically film on the 24th. So lots of fun things happening in around this time for us. So thanks, guys, for sticking around. Thank you to everyone. Just a side note, thank you to everyone who sent packages. They're all over there in letters. I can't wait to open them and hear your story. It's going to be awesome. So thanks, guys, for watching, and we will see you next week. And Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating. Thanks. See ya.